thank you. I'm so excited to see so many people out on a beautiful Southern California morning.
Yes.
I just drove down. I was home for a couple of hours and I drove down from Twin Peaks, and it's just breathtaking when you look at the mountains and everywhere. As I was driving up I forget if they call it the 215 or the 91, they mix them together there, but you know where that place is? I think it's a Green Valley exit or something. There's a train that goes past a golf course, and then there's these gorgeous mountains, and the sun was hitting it just right, and I wanted to stop and take pictures. We live in such an amazing place. You know, and what you're doing here today is why we are going to take back California in 2014. And you know, there's a whole lot of people that don't believe we can win. And they love to tell us how we don't have a chance. You know, as I watch this man poking holes in my flyers with such enthusiasm and grace. Sorry to put you on the spot.
You're on the top.
It just warms my heart. Because I believe that as Americans, when people tell us we can't do something, we should make that our to-do list.
Yes.
I just don't believe we should try to do what has been tried over and over and over again and been proven to be a failure. You remember Einstein said that if you do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity. Right. So when our party wants to put up people that can't win, it's discouraging. Especially if they did win, it wouldn't be a real victory. And you know, there's a different way. Because you know how I got elected? I got elected by walking door to door. My campaign headquarters was In-N-Out Burger. A double, fries, and a chocolate milkshake as long as I walked to enough houses. And I got back to my high school weight. That's how we're going to take back California. That's how we're going to win in November. But before we win in November, we got to win in June. So I want to tell you how much it means to me that you've been willing to turn out here today. And by the way, let me introduce my son Daniel, 16 years old. He's been helping me up and down the state. We were in Bakersfield yesterday, Fresno shortly before that, the evening before. Then we wound up in Ontario and then Burbank, where I did a little press conference on my bill to bring Hollywood home, and then I wound up in Hollywood. And you know, when I was in Hollywood, something interesting happened. Were you? I had an interesting conversation with a reporter, and he's going all over the state, and I've been traveling and talking and telling stories, and usually when you're talking to a reporter, they don't respond to what you're saying. They just try to be all objective and record it. And I've been traveling around, and one of the issues we've been talking about is Common Core. We had a rally to do something about Common Core and try to allow districts to opt out and empower people to actually have a choice.
Yay!
And it, I love your enthusiasm. And the necklace, that is awesome. But you know, as I was talking to him, I was kind of giving him a little bit of a thumbnail sketch of my education reform, because we need common sense education reform, not Common Core. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, well, you know, we need to find a way to fairly evaluate teachers, and then we need to reward the good teachers and be able to pay them more, We need to be able to get rid of the bad teachers. It's as simple as that, and put the kids first. And I said, you wouldn't believe it, but I was talking to a bunch of realtors the other day, and the subject of Common Core came up, which you wouldn't expect because realtors came to Sacramento to talk to us about realtor issues. And one guy told me that his teacher, his daughter, who's a really good student, was struggling, so his wife set up a meeting with the teacher, except she wouldn't meet with him. Before I could even finish the story, the reporter told me, that's happening to me right now. Well, when you don't have to do something and you don't have to answer to the people, and it's not just in a classroom, we see it with our government everywhere at every level. So you know what? What we're doing is not trying to elect a different guy with a better haircut. We're trying to unite people under a banner of liberty. Yay. And it's liberty that matters. This is individual liberty. This was the cause of the first revolution. And so when it comes to your child's education, you ought to be in charge, not the government.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I got to tell you, when I ran that bill, to hear the chairwoman of the Education Committee say in some of the starkest terms I've ever heard, education is not to be controlled locally. It is to be compelled from the state down. We dictate the curriculum and you follow it. That's your only duty at the local level. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of her mouth. I'm waiting to get the videotape to make sure I heard it right. But she used the word compel and compulsory. I don't think our government ought to be compelling us. It ought to convince us. I don't think it ought to rule over us. It ought to rule at our consent. I came to this state when I was 19. And I'll never forget the day I left Michigan. I was the third oldest of 14 kids. We lived in a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom home. And yes, that 0.5 was real important in the morning. About half my family was helping me push start my VW Bug. I turned to wave goodbye, but they were inside fighting over my room. My dad followed me halfway down the street and gave me $2 in quarters, and he said, "Son, whatever you do, don't call home." He said, "Get yourself a Coke somewhere between here and California." I should have been worried. I should have been nervous, but I knew where I was going. I was going to the land of opportunity. I went through a whole bunch of states, and a handful of them were pretty. I even went through Texas and didn't feel like staying. When I crossed into California, something changed. When I got down to the beach right near here, I fell in love. My first home in California was Costa Mesa. Kind of feels like things are coming full circle. And I sort of looked like Daniel. At least I had a lot more hair and muscles, and when I put on a set of shades, I likened myself to Tom Cruise. Unfortunately, the girls didn't. But when you're a young man, you're seeking your fortune. And that's why I came here. Within a decade, I had met and married the most amazing woman on the planet. And she was a young widow with 2 boys. We added 3, and now we have 5 sons and a grandson. And then we started our own business in plastics and manufacturing. We were living the California dream. And then along came the government. And they regulated me out of business by driving me out of the state of California. As I've been telling that story all over the state, something's happening because people see themselves. Whether you came here from somewhere else or whether you just grew up here. The California that I'm talking about is in danger of disappearing because of our government. I want my state back. I want my freedom back. I want my son to have the same opportunity that I had to live the California dream without having to leave the state of California. So I'm asking you, and I'm thanking you for doing what you're doing to restore the California dream so that our children and grandchildren don't have to grow up somewhere else. Because I want to teach them how to fish in person. You know, someday when I'm not logging 100,000 miles a month, it seems like, in planes, trains, buses, and automobiles, I want to go back to doing what normal people do. I pass golf courses all the time, but they're just places that I speak. And I see the ocean and I want to go in for a swim, but there's only so much time. So I'm looking forward to getting out there and walking door to door with you. Maybe not right now because they got me on a tight schedule, but soon. So thank you for your efforts on behalf of Liberty. And let's retire Jerry Brown. And usher in an era of prosperity and freedom, the likes of which California hasn't seen since Ronald Reagan. God bless you and Godspeed.
Good morning. Mark McCurdy, Fountain Valley City Council, and I'm here today to support Tim Donnelly for governor because we do need reform. We don't need the status quo, business as usual. Things have gotten so far out of hand with the budget. We need a reform candidate. We need a Ronald Reagan type candidate. We finally have one. His name is Tim Donnelly, and I'm going to support him 100%. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erik Peterson. I'm Planning Commissioner in Huntington Beach. I'm here to support Tim Donnelly for governor. He is a strong conservative candidate with great views. I will support him in the precincts. I will support him wherever he needs me. He's what California needs. We need the change.
Hi, I'm Ron Higby. I'm president of Surf City Tea. That's taxed enough already. I live in Huntington Beach. Like a lot of people, I'm concerned about the contest that we are in between two different worldviews. There are those who look to government as the solution of all problems, and there are those of us who believe that our country was founded on the basis of individual responsibility and just making use of government where it's necessary. So things are changing, and it really requires somebody like Tim Donnelly to step forward and say he wants to be governor because he's not a career politician. Instead, he wants to do the best that he can to represent the constitutional values that we like to believe a majority of Americans still share.
Okay, I'm John Briscoe. I'm state president of the California Republican Assembly, and we're thrilled to be backing Tim Donnelly for governor. I think he's the guy to bring California back. It's going to take a lot of steps, but getting him elected governor will be the first step. He's for smaller government, less regulation, and maybe we can get some of those companies and jobs back from Texas.
My name's Carol Redhead. I'm in First Precinct Office in Fountain Valley for Fountain Valley, Huntington Beach, California. We're working really hard for Tim Donnelly. We want him to be governor. We want him to change the government in California. We're fighting hard for your liberty and freedom. Your liberty and freedom are slowly being stripped away by the incumbents in government. And if you don't do something about it this year, it may be gone forever. Our chances may be gone forever. This is your only chance. If you're disturbed about what's going on, if you don't like your new medical care, if you don't like high taxes, if you are against people coming in and stealing your money, food, and education from across borders illegally, then we're your party. You need to vote for Tim Donnelly to make a difference.